All right, it is time for another podcast session of the Master Passive Income Podcast. My name's Dustin Heiner, and in the Master Passive Income Podcast, we talk all about real estate rental properties and how you can quit your job. That's right. Actually stop working for somebody else because you have a business that runs automatically, makes you money every single month, and you never have to worry about working a job again. When I was 37 years old, I actually quit my job. Now, what's funny is when I was 27, I realized I hated working for other people. So I gave myself 10 years. I said, in 10 years, I'm going to quit my job. And in 9 years, I beat my goal of 10 years. In 9 years, I actually quit my job. Praise the Lord, it's been 2 years since I quit my job, and I will never, ever have another job again. On top of that, the business that I own runs itself. I don't do any work, and the business continues to run. This is what I want for you. This is why I have the Master Passive Income Podcast, is to show you how you can do the exact same thing that I've done and have an amazing life without working a job, still making money, not having to worry about bills or anything like that, because you have money coming in automatically. Now, today we're going to be looking at the step-by-step process of a real estate transaction into passive income. Everything from finding a property all the way to actually making money every single month. I'm going to demystify it, so instead of it seeming really complex and complicated, I'm going to give you a step-by-step process you can follow to make sure that you get it done right. Now, let's look at this step-by-step process to get passive income into your pocket every single month. All right, let's start the show.
Welcome to the Master Passive Income Podcast, where we talk about investing in real estate rental properties with a special focus on making enough money so you can quit your job and live the dream life. And now, here's your host, Dustin Heiner.
All right, everybody, welcome to 2019. Man, another year's gone by and another year starting. And what is so amazing is that we have a new year to start investing or continue to invest and build our businesses even bigger. Now, in looking at the new year, I get a lot of people that tend to look back at the previous year to, find their accomplishments, see what they've done. And I don't know if they're nostalgic or they just like to go back and be grateful for what they've done, which is really, really well and good. But I'm not that type of guy. It turns out for me, usually throughout the month of December, my brain just goes to what's going to happen next year. I'm a goal-oriented type of person, and so I look forward to what I'm going to be doing for the future of my business, like buying more properties, getting multifamily, like 50, 60 unit apartment complexes, getting investors that are ready to invest with me as soon as I get a property under contract. And so I have all these things and I have all these goals. And even for Master Passive Income, I have goals on top of my real estate investing goals, which that's my main business. That's where I make all my money. But to help you guys out, I'm thinking of many courses that I can create, other topics for podcasts, and how I can actually bring more value to you guys. I have things like in the works of creating how to invest in rental properties with low and no money down, because I have a lot of people asking me, how do I get started with low or no money? Because I don't have money. How do I get started? Well, there are plenty of ways. Now, to be honest with you, it's a lot of work to get low and no money. It's so much it's easier when you have money. It's harder when you don't have money, but there's absolutely ways to do it. You just have to put your effort instead of, working, slaving away at a job. You put your effort in getting deals with low and no money down. So there's great ways to do that. I'm also looking at getting a property management online course that I could put through. I'm also taking on new students, and I love working with my students. I have some great people that I work with, and I only take a handful at a time. And so it's terrific finding and meeting and working with all of my students. I just love seeing them and planning the next 6 months or the next year. So I usually plan out the next 6 months. I know what I'm going to be doing the next 5 years, or at least I have a big, broad picture for the next 5 years. But in the next 6 months, I'd have actionable items that I am going to be putting in place, finding properties, utilizing funds that I can use from other people, finding new investors, all that sort of stuff. And so hopefully you're going to be doing that same thing. In the next 6 months, you already have an idea, or I'm going to suggest now, Start getting an idea of what you're going to be doing this next 6 months to make your business successful. It could be buying the first property. It could be buying your 8th property or getting financing for your next property. Whatever it might be, I want you to start thinking, okay, this next 6 months, I want to buy, let's say, buying your first property. Well, in the next 6 months, you have to do a number of things like getting financing, making sure you have the right area to invest, having property managers start looking at properties, all that sort of stuff. You need to have these goals or these milestones set in your brain, or actually, I would strongly suggest writing them down so you have those milestones that you can actually go back and look at. Where am I at? What's my next step? What's my next to do so that I can get to that next step? Because honestly, getting that first property is always the hardest. Getting that next property is hard, but you can do it. Make your goals, make your milestone. Now, as I've been doing this podcast, I always try to find new ways and new things to teach you and new things to look out for. So I'm always trying to learn from lots and lots of people. But here's the funny thing. In all of my searching for new things, new ways to invest and new ways to make money and trying to help and teach you, I came across something that actually made me laugh, like literally laugh out loud. You know that term LOL? But I was literally laughing out loud, more out of sheer bewilderment and just like, what? Are you kidding me? So there is a guru out there, a real estate guru. His name is Grant Cardone. Not saying he's a bad guy or anything. It's just, I don't really gravitate towards Grant Cardone. He's a little more, Grant Cardone-ish than I am. But some people love him, or lots of people love him. And so I think something like I saw an article that went over to his website, looked at it for 1 or 2 seconds and didn't see anything that I really was either new or exciting. And then I closed it and went back out. But apparently Facebook liked that I went to his website. So when I went to Facebook, a couple hours later to see what's going on with my friends and family, I see Grant Cardone's sponsored, post or sponsored ad that's on there. And I laughed out loud when I saw this. So it had Grant Cardone, and apparently it has his wife on there. He's advertising a one-on-one coaching with his wife. And I thought, oh, okay, one-on-one coaching with his wife. And then I saw his price tag. At first I thought, that'd be kind of neat. She probably knows her stuff and you can get coaching with her. That's fantastic. Then I saw the price tag. Guess how much it is? Stop right now and just think, how much would coaching be for a one-on-one coaching from Grant Cardone and his wife? I guess basically his wife doing it. It was $25,000. $25,000 for a one-on-one coaching. And here was what's funny. I was dumbfounded. So I had to click on it just to get a glimpse of what in the world they would be offering. For $25,000, you better be doing everything. It was funny. So I clicked on the link, went to the site that showed what you get for your $25,000. Basically, it was if you wanted to fly out to visit them, you have one session with them or one meeting with them. I think it said like a 1 or 2 hour meeting with them, and they will then give you a step-by-step plan, and then that's it. That's it. Like literally $25,000 to meet with them, and you could even do $25,000. It could be a Skype phone call with them for 1 to 2 hours, and they give you a plan, and then you're done. Now, maybe there's a lot more to it, but on their sales page, that was literally it. It was basically paying $25,000 for one meeting with his wife, and that just seems like a ton of money for almost nothing. I mean, you get a little bit, but I mean, what would that be worth? Apparently, she is such high dollar value and in demand that she can charge $25,000. Hey, if people are going to pay her $25,000, then good for her. That's fantastic. Then I clicked over on Grant Cardone's one-on-one training. So his one-on-one training, if you wanted to get trained by him for an entire year, this would be a one-on-one package where once a month he would talk to you for an hour. So it's basically 12 hours of his time for an entire year. Guess how much his one-on-one package is for an entire year? That's right. Your jaw's probably gonna hit the ground. Mine did. $120,000 for 12 one-on-one sessions where you would talk to him on the phone for an hour. 12 one-on-one sessions, $120,000. Has anybody ever paid that? I mean, what in the world would you be doing spending $120,000? Most people do not have that type of money. And even if they did, why would they pay $120,000? If they do, then that's great. I know you're not like that, and I'm definitely not like that too. I'm not going to spend $120,000. Now, what I do in the reason why I say this is because I do coaching with lots of students, and I charge literally a fraction, like not even like 1%, like a fraction of that. And I give them so much more. I give them hours of coaching. I give them, I work with them analyzing projects. I work with them analyzing deals, finding new areas to invest. I work with them and give them a plan from where they are now to how they can get to where they have an automatic business. And I help them get to where they literally don't need a job anymore. So it was just dumbfounding. I just had to say that. Now, if you go to my podcast show notes, I'm going to have everything that I talk about in this podcast, as well as a screenshot of the $25,000 paid coaching, one-on-one coaching with Grant Cardone's wife. So the podcast show notes is masterpassiveincome.com/040. This is the 40th session of the Master Passive Income podcast. And if you go there, I will also have a diagram that shows the step-by-step process that I created that we're basically walking through today. So go to the podcast show notes, get a laugh at a $25,000 coaching package. It's just silly. All right, now let's get into the show. So in today's show, we're going to be talking all about the process of a real estate transaction to cash flow or to passive income, from identifying a property all the way to the very end where you find a renter, you actually sign a lease, and you make a positive return on your money. And again, like I said, I have a whole diagram that walks you through every single step. And if you want to, save it or bookmark this page so you can go back and find it over and over again, so you can go through the whole entire process, so you can absolutely do that. Okay, so let's dive into it. Now, the first step in finding a property, I know this is going to be pretty mind-blowing, but it's locate the property, obviously. I know, imagine that. That's the first step, is to find a property. But we'll go through every single step. There's like 10 of them. So we need to locate and identify the potential investment property. Now, if you listen to my other podcast shows, I explain what type of property to look for, what type of area to look for. I explain all these intricate things inside other podcast shows. So go ahead and go back and listen to those after you listen to this. So as I go through these steps, you're going to have questions. Well, all those questions should be answered in all the previous podcast show notes. Now let's go through it. So locating and identifying the potential investment property. Now, a big tip, and I've said this in previous podcast shows, but I got to tell you, you want to find good investment properties, not a good home to live in. Like, you're not going to be living in this home. Somebody will, and somebody will live there. There are always going to be renters. There's always people that need a place to live, and you and I are going to be the people that are going to buy those properties that they can live in. So you want to find good investment properties, not good homes. Like, you don't want to find the best property on the block and buy it, pay a premium for it, and then try to rent it out and make, $25 a month. No, we don't do that as investors. We make our money work for us, and then we also do our best to find properties that we can put money into, fix up, make the value more, make it rent more, and make money every single month. So the first step, again, is to find the property, and that's among hundreds that are currently listed for sale in any area that you're wanting to invest. It could be any state, and that's something that I specialize in helping all my students, is to invest in other states other than the one you live. Now, some people may live in the Midwest, or like in Ohio or Tennessee or Oklahoma, where they have good properties that can give good cash flow that right next to them. But not everybody does. I know everybody that listens to this podcast, they're going to be all over the world, if not all over the country, not in a specific state. So what I specialize in helping all my students is finding new areas to invest and how to make an automatic business in another state that's thousands of miles away from you, so that you can live the dream life, because you don't actually have to have a job. So let me give you a few criteria when you're looking for an investment property. So first one is you need to find a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family home. Remember, this is going to be like the cookie cutter home that's your go-to type of home that everybody's going to either want to buy when you try to sell, or they're going to want to rent because it's a nice home. It's not too big. It's not too small. It's like, Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. It's perfect. It's the right size. So 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single family home. that has 1,200 to 1,400 square feet and a 2-car garage. Now, this is the type of property. I'll say it one more time. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family home with over 1,400 square feet and has a 2-car garage. Now, the price range should be between like maybe $80,000 or below. It could be $60,000, $50,000, $40,000, $30,000, $20,000. It could be that. But if you go maybe $60,000, $70,000 to $120,000, when you start getting to $150,000, $160,000, $200,000, you start having diminishing returns. Because basically, if you're borrowing $200,000 and you're making $200, you're only making $200, but you have a big mortgage payment that if you have to evict somebody, you have to pay. But if you have a $100,000 loan, that's a much smaller, like cut that in half, and that's a much smaller mortgage that you need to pay. And so you have less debt on yourself as opposed to more debt. And so I would personally, sum it all up, I would personally rather have a $100,000 property with a note or mortgage on it and make $250 as opposed to a $200,000 home with a big mortgage on that one and make $200 or $250 a month. So I would rather have less money out of my pocket or less money in debt for the amount of passive income coming in. Now, if it's different, if it was a $200,000 property that brought you $500 a month in passive income, then great, that's double the $100,000 property in passive income coming in. So you want to identify a potential investment property by looking at all the different properties that are out there, seeing which ones are the best price, and the next step is evaluate the property. Now that you've already found a property, you found maybe 1, 2, 3, or 4, but let's just say you found one and you're going to go with this area. You're going to find this property that you like. It looks good. Now we need to evaluate the property. Single-family homes, their value is based upon comparable sales of like properties in the area. Not like, from California to Texas. No, it's not like that. It's in the area within a 2-mile radius. And so the same amount of bedrooms, same amount of bathrooms, square footage. They basically look at maybe the exact same type of home, if not off by maybe 100 more square feet or less square feet. They try to find as close as they can. They try to find a comparable home that is like yours that has sold recently so that they can give that value for it. So you want to evaluate the property. Number one, make sure that the property is not overvalued, where the person selling it, where you see the comparables are $100,000, but they're trying to sell it for $130,000, $120,000, or $110,000. You don't want to buy that property because it's overvalued. They're trying to get too much for it. Us as investors, we try to get as little money coming out of our pocket so that we get more money coming in. So if the value is $100,000, I'm trying to get that property for $80,000, maybe $75,000. I try to get it for less so that I basically pocket. It's called equity capture. That you capture that equity. So if they're asking $100,000 and its value is $100,000 right now, but you get it for $80,000, you literally capture $20,000 in equity at the moment that you bought that property. That's $20,000 in equity in your pocket that you can use for a refinance or something else that you can use that equity for. So you want to look at comparable homes to make sure you find the right value. There are other things that you need to bring into account when you're buying a home. Let's say the market value is $100,000. The asking price is like $98,000 or $100,000. Let's just say the asking price and the market value is the same at $100,000. You negotiate the price down to $80,000. Well, you have equity made $20,000 right in your pocket, but you got to think of how much it's going to cost to rehab. Basically, how much is it going to cost to get the property rentable shape or rent ready so that a tenant can move in? If it's going to cost you $40,000 to get a tenant in there, well, you're going to be buying it for $80,000. Its value is $100,000. You put $40,000 into it and you're at $120,000. Well, you would increase the value, but you're not doing that much to actually put more money in your pocket. So we want equity capture, but we also want to have forced appreciation, where we put money into the property, fixing up, giving new paint, new carpet, new, light switches, things like that. Make it look pretty so that the value goes up even more. your goal should be to put $5,000, $6,000, or $7,000 into the property. So instead of paying just $80,000, you put $5,000 or $6,000, $7,000. So let's say you're at $87,000. So you still have the equity capture of $13,000 in your pocket. Remember, the market value is $100,000. You fixed it up bought it and fixed it up for $87,000. $100,000 minus $87,000 is $13,000 of equity in your pocket. So you also need to look at your rehab costs. You want to make sure that you can force the appreciation to go up. You're not going to be losing equity, and you're going to be making money. So from locating and identifying the potential investment property, you need to evaluate the property to make sure it's a viable property, that you're not overpaying for the property. Now let's move on to number 3. You want to analyze the numbers to make sure the property cash flows. Now, analyzing the numbers basically means calculating all your expenses that you're going to get every single month from the property. And on top of that, seeing how much you're going to be able to rent the property for. Now, let's say this property can rent for $1,200. If you have expenses that are only $800 and all the expenses from taxes, insurance, any maintenance, any vacancy factor where somebody's moved out of the property and you're not getting rent, all these different, property managers, repairs, pest control, things like that, you have all these expenses put in and it's a total of $800. If you're making $1,200 per month, minus $800, you're getting $400 in passive income coming into your pocket every single month, because income minus expenses is your profit. Now, if your expenses is $1,300 and you're only making $1,200, well, you're losing $100 a month, and we don't invest for that. If I was losing money on my properties, I would have to work, because I could not live on losing money. I need money coming in my pocket. So I shoot for a positive passive income of $200 to $250 a month or more per property. Now, there are many expenses that you will come across. Now, I'm going to give you a few here, and there's tons of them that you may come across. Now, you're not going to have all of these, but you can have some. Let me walk you through. So there could be accounting that you might need to account for, like your bookkeeping, advertising, reserved funds, electricity, insurance, property management fees, pest control, repairs, property taxes, security services, lawn care, utilities. There's so many different things, and I have all these in the show notes again, but I also have something free that I want you to use. It's my rental property calculator, and I've listed just about everything in the rental property calculator that you can have as an expense. I even have an extra line item that if you find anything else, you can throw that in there as well. But this rental property calculator is actually going to give you the ability to run the numbers on a certain property all for free. So when you have a property that you want to analyze the numbers, go to my free investment property calculator. And in there, you will be able to figure out if you're going to be making money every single month on a property or losing money. Now, to get there, go to masterpassiveincome.com/resources. RESOURCES, just like it sounds, resources. And you will find my property calculator in there. Just click on that. It'll actually take you through the entire process. Even it will calculate a mortgage payment and how much you're going to have in a mortgage payment all for you. And it'll pop out a beautiful number of a positive income every single month or a negative income. And so what you want to do is make sure that step number 3 is we are going to run the numbers. We're going to make sure that this property puts money in our pocket every single month. Remember, that's masterpassiveincome.com/resources. And in that resources page, I got tons of extra great things for you, like free contracts for you to download, free other documents, and other calculators and all that sort of stuff. Okay, your next one, the next step is to contact the owner and negotiate an agreement with them. Now, the owner, let's say, for instance, you find a property that is for sale by owner on Craigslist. Well, you need to talk to the property owner. But what if you find it on the MLS or in Zillow where it's listed for sale? Now, this property could have a realtor that's actually listing this home for sale. So you would talk to the realtor, or if you have a realtor of your own, which I don't necessarily say that you need one, you could just talk to the seller realtor yourself and just say, I'm representing myself and I want to talk to you about the property. So then you negotiate with either the seller or with the realtor. So this can't be one of the most scary parts of a transaction. I completely understand that, because running numbers and doing everything on your own in your home, in your bedroom where you're in your pajamas and all that sort of stuff, that's so easy to do. But when you actually have to talk to somebody, I know you can get a little nerve-wracking. I know I could get a little nervous when all of a sudden I'm starting to talk to somebody and I'm on the phone. It starts to ring like, what am I going to say? I've been there. It happens. But what you need to do is literally just start trying. Just call one after another. Force yourself to do this. Just think of, if you have a boss, like if you're married, your boss is your spouse. He or she tells you, get on the phone, start making calls, start making these cold calls where you start finding properties. Just imagine this is your job. I want to quit my job so I can work for myself. This is my job. This is my business. If I don't do it, nobody will. So I'm encouraging you to pick up that phone, force yourself, get the grit, you grit your teeth and say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it happen. I had to do this. I remember the very first time I made a phone call and started talking to somebody about a property. I was scared. I had no clue what I was going to say, but I learned what I was going to say. And obviously, listen to my podcast. You can hopefully get so many good things about what to say and how to ask things and what to look for. And in this process, you're going to develop the grit to be able to say, you know what? It's just another phone call. It's another human being on the other line. They have a property they want to sell. I may want to buy it. Let's just talk about it. So get that in your mind. You want to contact the owner and negotiate an agreement with them or the realtor, but it's just another person that you're going to be talking to one-on-one. Even if you think, I don't know what to say, just say, hey, I see you have a property listed on, number 1 Happy Street. Can you tell me about it? That's all you got to say, and then they'll start talking, and then in that time, you're going to be getting ideas in your head of what you should say. Now, if they are willing to sell, which more than likely, the reason why it's listed is because they are willing to sell, you need to talk about the purchase price, inspection period, how long you're going to be able to inspect the property or have a home inspector come and inspect the property, escrow length, any concessions or contingencies. This home purchase is contingent on a satisfactory inspection report. I always have that in there. I want to make sure that it's a satisfactory inspection, and what type of terms and other things that you're going to agree to. So this is the period that you're going to be talking to them, as well as figuring out what it's going to take to actually get the property in your pocket. Obviously, the number one thing is basically purchase price, but you don't talk about that until you get as much information out of them as possible. Like, why are they selling? Or is there anything wrong with the property? Is there anything you should know about the property? All these sort of things come to mind as you're talking to them. Get as much information as you can. Then if you want to, go ahead and, hang up and say, thank you very much. I'll think about it. Hang up, write all your numbers down, analyze everything, make sure everything looks good, and then call them back the next day and say, hey, I'm thinking about your property. Are you flexible on it? Oh, sorry. I've said this many times in previous podcast shows, and I want you to know this. Everything in this business is negotiable. Everything from the purchase price to the realtor's commission, how many points you're going to pay, 3% or 6% or what, everything is negotiable in anything. So if you're thinking, I'll give you many examples, the realtor commission, the title company's commissions, and fees, and property manager fees, literally every single time money comes out of your pocket in this business, that is negotiable. Always negotiate. The worst they can say is no. You already have a no now. If they're going to ask $100,000 for a property and you don't say, well, how about 80? Would you take $80,000 for it? If you don't ask, you already have a no. You literally don't even have, you have the $100,000 coming out of your pocket as opposed to 80. So I would suggest always negotiate everything. My wife is one that does not negotiate. She loves that I love negotiating because I do all the negotiating, and I love doing it. It's like a game for me. It's really, really fun. And I have a podcast show that I talk all about negotiating everything in your business so that you can make even more money and build your business even faster. So go back, and I think that is the podcast show number 14. And actually, yes, that is podcast show number 14. To find it really simple, go to masterpassiveincome.com/014, and I have all the show notes there and the podcast you can listen to and all that. But I talked to you through how to actually negotiate everything and win big, and how I've done it many, many times where I make tons more money because I negotiate everything. All right, now the next step is create the contract on the agreed upon terms and contract with the seller. Now, basically, whatever you agreed upon, the terms, any concessions, purchase price, all these sort of things are going to be put in the contract. Now, if you're working with a realtor, the realtor will do all that work for them. Make them work. You're paying them money, and the seller's paying them money. Make them do all the work for you. Tell them what to do. And so they're going to do what you say. But now, if you're working with a seller one-on-one, which I've done many, many times, work with a seller one-on-one. Don't even need realtors. Not saying you don't ever use them. They serve their purpose. But when you have done it plenty of times, you could do it all on your own. So You write up the contract with everything itemized out, and to be completely straightforward and tell you that never hide anything. I'm going to be completely honest and say everything that you do in this business, be as transparent as possible, because people can sue you or they can get upset and pull out of a deal. You want to be as transparent as possible. So if there's something you don't like, or there's something that you need, or there's something that is, you're kind of thinking, hey, I'm kind of concerned about this, bring it up, talk about it, get it all out in the open. The worst they can do is say no, but there are plenty of properties out there for you to move on to. So again, anytime, like, you don't want to try to hide something in a contract, even though you think, oh, we've already talked about it, but I'm not sure, so I'm just going to put it here and hopefully they don't see it. Well, you can, but my opinion is people like working with honest people. People that are sellers really appreciate an honest real estate investor that says, hey, I'm just trying to help you out as much as I can, and here is what I see and this is what I need. And you basically put everything out there. Like, if you need to have them pay the property taxes before you sell, then make sure that's itemized and laid out in there. So again, be completely honest, completely transparent, and forthcoming in everything in this business. Trust me, it will come back to bite you if you try to hide anything. If you try to slip something in a contract or whatever it might be, that would be negative. So create the contract with the agreed upon terms of the contract with the seller and present it to the seller, or have the agent, your realtor, present it to the seller. And so that's basically getting everything down before everything's already all committed and set in stone. They have a chance to come back and say, well, I don't like this, let's change this. Hopefully everything's going to work out great because you've already agreed upon it. You've already talked about everything. You know what they want, you know what you want, and you've already agreed, and you just write everything up. Now, the next step would actually, once you have the contract written up, you get them to sign it, basically. They need to sign the contract, you sign the contract, and then you have that contract set in stone. Honestly, the sooner you put that contract set in stone, the better. The sooner you do that, the sooner it is off the market. Like, basically nobody else can come, like an investor like me, like if you have a property under contract and I see this property, like 3 days later, I'm like, oh, it's on the market. Let me go put an offer on it. And I'm going to pay $5,000 more because I think it's a great house. Well, you already have a contract on it that they cannot break. Only when your contract is voided by basically, time running out or something else happening, only when that happens can they sell the house to somebody else, even if they offer them more money. Once it's in contract, you have the legal ability to take them to court if they sell to somebody else and get reparations from them for this process. Hopefully you don't have to do any of that stuff and they don't try to sell it out from underneath you, but you have the legal recourse because you have a contract, something set in stone. Don't go off of it's kind of funny. I'm just going to bring up something really funny. The Simpsons. I used to watch The Simpsons all the time. There was a really, really funny one time where Homer Simpson was talking to a lawyer, and the lawyer asked him, did you get express written consent to use this? And Homer said, no, I got implied oral consent. And so it's obviously the opposite, implied oral as opposed to explicit sign. And so, no, you don't want implied oral consent. You want actually written consent, written, completely authorized, and they have signed on the dotted line that they are selling it to you for every term and every price and everything that you already have. Next step, once you have everything signed and everything's ready to go, you open title with an escrow company. Open title basically means you go to the escrow company and you tell them, I'm buying this house from, John Doe or somebody, and they say, okay, great. We're going to look through the title work of the company. Basically, make sure there are no liens against the property, no back taxes, no, nothing bad with the property. So when you buy it, you're not going to have any issues. Title companies are great. I do a lot of title work myself. I do a lot of research on everything on properties, but I rely on title companies because title companies, you're paying them, and it's really not that much. Maybe, I don't know, $500, $600, $700, depending on the state and whoever you're working with. It can go up and down, but the work that they do, it actually helps you to know that the property you're buying does not have anybody else that can come and say, hey, I own part of that property, or that's my property. Like, you don't want to be buying a property from Joe Schmo when John Doe actually owns it. If you do that, you go to the title company and say, hey, I'm buying it from Joe Schmo, and the title company looks, and who actually is the owner, the real owner, is John Doe. Well, they're going to say, hey, you're buying it from the wrong person. If you give them money, you're not going to get ownership because they don't actually own the property. And so a title company is great. Now, it's so super simple to find a title company. There are so many of them, and many of them are nationwide, like literally in California to New York. You'll have companies that are the same companies, and they all do a good job. And more than likely, you pick one that has a decent reputation, that has many offices, you're going to get a good company that's going to do good title company or title search on the property. On top of that, they're going to give you title insurance. Title insurance is basically saying, at the time that we did this research and before, we did not find any issues with the title, who the ownership and any liens on the property. They've actually cleared it and said this property will be free and clear yours when you buy it. And they give you that insurance. So if they missed anything, let's say they missed something, like back in 1972, somebody had partial ownership of the property and the other person you're trying to buy it from had partial ownership, and he's representing, the seller's representing that they own everything. Well, it's not the case. And so if the title company misses that and it comes back up, a year, 2 years later, and depending on, the time frame for the insurance, the title company will actually do all the work to clear that up. They'll pay all the fees. They're guaranteeing, in a sense, that there is nobody that has a stake of ownership in the property, and they'll be free and clear yours. Now, after you started escrow, once you get everything going, you need to get satisfactory inspections. Basically, get home inspections, get pest inspections. In certain areas of the country, you may need to get pest inspections that are like termite inspections. I know in California, every single time you buy a house, it has to have a termite inspection if you're getting a mortgage, because there are termites in California, most places in California. Like in Arizona, when I bought my properties, I did not need a termite inspection because there are not that many termites out there. And so just depending on the area, and if you're getting a mortgage, the mortgage company will tell you what type of inspections you're going to need to get. But here's one that you should never miss. Even if you're buying with cash, and I've bought many houses with cash, I always do a home inspection with a good home inspector. I mean, they inspect from top to bottom. They look at everything possible that they can see. They don't open up walls and, try to look at plumbing behind the wall and all that sort of stuff. But anything visual that they don't have to tear apart, they are looking at everything from the roof to the foundation to the electrical panels, the furnace, the water heat. They look at everything. Most inspectors should take about 2 hours or more at your property. If they're there for 30 minutes, they are not a good home inspector. You want somebody that's going to take the time to be able to really look at every single part of the property. Now, what they're going to give you is a inspection report. Now, you want to look through that report to make sure there's no huge deficiencies. Basically, like if the roof is literally falling off and it's going to need to be repaired tomorrow. You want to look for things in there that are big alarms. Like they're alarms. There are going to be some things that are hazardous. Do this right now. Like this needs to be fixed right now. There are things that are going to say, hey, in the next 5 years, you're going to have to replace this, or these are satisfactory. So you need to look at the inspection report, and each inspection report is different depending on the home inspector and the company that they work for. But you want to go through to make sure that the property is sound. Now, here's a tip I'm going to give you. If you find that, okay, you've already made an offer to the seller's already agreed, you already have the contract signed, and you already have the dollar amount, like you say, it's worth $100,000, I'm buying it for $80,000, you have a signed contract for $80,000. Good for you. But what if the inspector comes back and says, hey, it needs a new furnace, it needs a new hot water heater, and the foundation is really, really questionable. You need to get that fixed right away. Well, you have that concession. Remember at the beginning when we talked about talking with the seller, where you have a contingency saying this purchase of the property is contingent on a satisfactory home inspection. And so the tip is when you do find something that is not good, where you can say, well, I'm going to back out. And the reason why is this. Instead of saying I'm going to back out, it's still probably a good property. You just need to make sure that the seller pays for whatever issue. Let's say it's the roof. The roof is really falling apart and they say it absolutely must be fixed and it's going to cost $8,000. Well, you go back to the seller and say, hey, seller, this is what's going on. I still want to buy the property, but because the inspection shows that the roof needs replaced, I need to have the roof replaced and I need you to pay for it. So we're either going to have you replace it before I buy it, and you pay everything out of pocket, or you give me $8,000 off the property. So instead, because I know it's going to cost $8,000, you already got a quote from a roofing company. And so this is what I've done in the past where I knew there was something that was wrong, like a septic system was gone or roofing needs to be repaired or something. I knew that that's going to be a problem. I went out and quickly got a quote or an estimate. And with that estimate, I went to the seller and said, this property needs $8,000 worth of work. So you can either do it yourself right now or just credit me $8,000. So instead of buying for $80,000, we'll put the purchase price at $72,000. So there'll be an $8,000 credit going towards me. So it's less coming out of my pocket. And I will take care of the repairs. Obviously, everything else, like if it's above $8,000, if you do that, it's out of your pocket. So just in case, you want to make sure you overestimate and make sure that the whoever's giving you an estimate knows exactly what they're doing. So that's satisfactory inspection. If everything comes back and everything looks fantastic and you have a satisfactory inspection, you want to then move on to satisfy all the contingencies. You want to satisfy everything out there, like if it's contingent on getting financing, if it's contingent on a home inspection or a roof inspection, termite inspection. You want to make sure everything's satisfied. Now, the next step is easy. Work with the title company to close escrow. It's literally just walking to the title company or them sending you a notary, which I've done many times because I bought out of state and I'm not going to fly to sign papers. They send a notary out to my home and I sign the paper where I buy the property. It's just that easy. The next step, here's the last few steps. You make the property rent ready by rehabbing the property. So as soon as you get the keys, as soon as money's transferred, the title's transferred, and you get the keys to the property, you need to have your crews ready to get in there and start cleaning up the property. And you should already have everything in mind and have people ready. Like you've already said, I have my crew for painting, I have my crew for flooring, I have my crew for getting windows in because the windows are broken or whatever it might be. You have everything ready to make it rent ready so you can jump into it. Hopefully at most you're spending 2 weeks on the property at most. And in the meantime, here's the next step. You're finding a renter. And so you don't need to wait until the property's done to start advertising the property. But I suggest, here's a pro tip for you, don't show the property until the property is done. You don't want a good potential renter to come in and see a property that's halfway done and be like, ooh, and they don't understand that you're fixing it up. They understand it, but they can't see the broad picture, like, hey, what it's going to look like when it's done. You don't want to scare off anybody away. So you can say, I can take your number, and as soon as it's done, I'll have you come through the property. Do that. Don't show it before it's actually done. So now the next step in finding a renter is advertising it, going through a property manager or a leasing agent that's going to find you a property. Go through Craigslist, put the ad on Zillow.com, many different ways, but you need to find a renter. Now I'm going to give you another pro tip. Always, always, always do a background check. If it's you doing the background check or your property manager doing the background check, never, never, never place a tenant inside your property without doing a full background check. I've so many times have been surprised at what comes up on a background check where a person is lying on their application to get in the place. And it comes back to, what's true about them is not what they put on the application, but what comes back in their background check. And I'm not going to get into all the weird, crazy things, but always do it because it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run. If $135 fee that you're charging for applicants, which they should have the money to pay, if they're not going to pay for an application, they're not serious enough to rent the property. So have them pay an application fee, basically just to run a background check, whatever that fee is. Have them pay for it. And then look at that background check to make sure it's satisfactory for you. Now, if you use the property management system, Cozy, that I use, and if to find it, go to masterpassiveincome.com/Cozy, COZY. It'll take you over to Cozy. It's absolutely free and it's fantastic. So go through my link, Cozy, masterpassiveincome.com/Cozy, and it does all your property management, does all your expenses. It will actually list properties for rent for you. You'll even have them have the tenants actually go through a background check on Cozy itself. They pay for it themselves. It's fantastic and it's absolutely free. So go to masterpassiveincome.com/Cozy, COZY. Get signed up for free. Get started. It's going to be fantastic for you. So they're going to take care of that, but never ever place a tenant if you don't run a background check. Next thing, sign the lease agreement with the tenant. You need to make sure that you have this lease agreement. Do not let anybody store okay, I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine. This has got me train of thought that I really got to tell you. I have a friend of mine who had his house that he moved out of and he's renting it out. Well, the tenants lived in there for like 8 years, and praise the Lord, they said they was excited that they stayed there for so long, but they moved on and they were fixing it up. And there was this young lady that wanted to rent in her place, and they were somewhat acquaintances, like their daughter's friends, sisters, cousins, former roommate, or something like that. They knew each other somehow. And so they thought that it was going to work out, and they were nice and said, and she asked him, the potential tenant said, can I put my stuff in the garage? Because, I'm going to move in anyways. And so can I put it there now? And they, being rather nice, not running it like a business, and like a business would be saying, no, you don't even have it. Like, I don't have any money from you, so no, you can't. But they did. They said yes. And literally the entire garage, from wall to wall, ceiling to floor, was full of stuff, like literally just jam-packed full of stuff. And the lady was a not good tenant, and they didn't even pick her because her application, she wouldn't even pay for the background check. Her application was bad. Like, everything was bad about her, but they let her move all of her junk in. And so they literally had to move all that stuff out for her because they were trying to be nice. Anyways, long story short, do not let any tenant have any access to the property until they've signed and paid the first month's rent and the security deposit and all that sort of stuff. The next step, and this is the last greatest step, is make a return, a positive return on your money. Isn't that fantastic? So you have your expenses. You've already calculated those out. You have your income. You know how much you're going to make. You're making $1,200 a month, but your expenses are $950 a month. That's everything: taxes, insurance, mortgage payment, all that sort of stuff. So you make $250 a month. Isn't that fantastic? You are now making a positive return on your money. That's passive income coming into your pocket. Now, that is the step-by-step process. And again, I have the whole diagram for you to look at. Now, at any one of these steps in the process, if something doesn't work out, you can always negotiate back with the seller. And then you can also, on top of that, you could just cancel the contract and find another property. So you're going to be set to make sure that you're not losing money from your properties. And thank you again, guys, so much for being a part of the Master Passive Income podcast. I really, really enjoy being here with you. Now, if you want to get started investing in rental properties and you have no idea how, I have a free course for you. Go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course. Get your free course that's going to show you how to get started investing in real estate rental properties, and you can expand your mind to see how you can actually live the dream life and never work again and have an automatic business that runs itself. All right, guys, again, this is 2019. We are starting a brand new year. Get out there, make things happen, get your first property, get your next property, get your business going so you can live the dream life and quit your job and never work again. All right, guys, see you next week. Peace out.